right. Good morning. It is so good to see you. It's the first day of April, and a lot of people would say, yes, it's April Fool's Day. So have you been fooled? I really hope not, okay? Or are you planning to fool someone before? Remember the 12 p.m., eh? But it's so good to see you right here on Your World. And it is Wellness Wednesday. So I hope that you want to stay tuned until the end of the conversation, because today we want to focus on a day that, yes, will be marked tomorrow, but you know us here on Your World, we start things earlier and we start conversations earlier. And I am talking about the world's, what is it called? The World Autism Awareness Day, okay? And it is happening on the 2nd of April every year, but today we want to start the conversation early here on Your World and really get to understand, especially when it comes to the theme on autism and humanity, every life has value. And we have seen this over time, that it doesn't matter how much we talk about autism, there's still a lot of stigma surrounding it. There's still a lot of misinformation and disinformation and misunderstanding, and all those things are coupled with the same. So the question is, what is it that we need to do better, to understand better, to be more empathetic, but also to offer as much support that is needed? You want to stick around until the end of the show today to understand more on the same, because like we said, as we mark the World Autism Awareness Day 2026, we're reminded of a simple yet powerful truth, that every life has value, okay? So stick around again, like I said, until the end to really understand how best can we either chime in terms of support, what is it that we need to do better, even in our circles, okay? To really curb the misinformation and disinformation that is out there as far as autism is concerned. And before you meet my guest this morning, we also have a simple question for you. And the question, as per usual, is, have you ever felt misunderstood, and what helped or hurt in that moment? Have you ever felt misunderstood, and what helped or what hurt in that moment? Let us know at NTV Kenya across all board, and that is on our digital platforms, or better yet, use our WhatsApp number, which will be down on your screen in just a second. Tell us, have you ever felt misunderstood? And in that moment, okay, what hurt? Let us know. We'll be looking at your feedback as we continue with the conversation, but I am not alone. I have a full panel this morning, and I'm really, really excited about this panel this morning. So on my immediate left, we have Angela Kawira, who is a mom to a child with autism, but she's also a general manager operations at Linton's. Yes. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
I'm
happy to be here. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for making the time. And then next to Angela, let me tell you, this girl, we will play her song in just a second, okay? The minute we have it ready, we will play it for you. But she's Amani Wambui Kibaye. And of course, you're a beekeeper?
Yes.
Amani!
Yeah, I'm a beekeeper.
From when? Because me saw you when you were a little girl, and now you're all grown, you're tall, you're almost like...
tall.
Yes, you're almost the same height as
yes,
me.
Because I'm turning 12 years old.
Yay!
My school is called Mount Nice, my school.
Hey! Karibu sana Amani. Oh my God. It was so good to see you again, my gosh. I saw her when she was a little baby, and now she's 12. Okay. And then next to Amani, we have Mama Amani, okay? And Margaret Kimani, who is Mama Amani, of course, okay? Yeah. But she's also the managing director of Boutique Global Investment Consulting Group. Wewe, karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
And you're also an author.
Yes.
You will tell us a little bit about that as well, as we continue with the conversation. Because I know to both of you, you and Angela, this conversation is very personal to you. Yes, so it's really, really good to have you.
Experience.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's really good to have you both join us this morning for the conversation. And then next to Margaret, we have Dr. Duncan Chengo, who's an occupational therapist and a board of directors, NCPWD. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Good to see
Nice
you.
After... It's been a minute.
It's been a minute since I saw you last. Yeah, it is so good to see you as well, Dr. Harry. Thank you so much for making the time. And we also have Dr. Beatrice in the building. Hi.
Hi.
Karibu sana. Dr. Beatrice Mudhoni Mange, who's a mental health practitioner as well as a child psychologist, joining us for this important conversation. So thank you so much, Dr. Beatrice. Can we just understand autism? And probably, Dr. Chengo, we can start with you. Because like we said, we have talked about autism for a very long time, but still, it's not well understood. There's a lot of stigma. There's bado tunasema mtu aliangalia mtoto wangu na macho mbaya. You know, witchcraft here and there. So can we just understand it, because it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So autism in itself.
Well, you know, for you to move away from stigma, understanding is very important.
Yes.
And when you understand, then you action. We move from just understanding to action.
Yes.
And therefore, the best way to understand what autism is, it's a developmental disorder. Autism is not sickness. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to treat about it. Just that sometimes it comes with some few comorbidities that may need to be treated.
Yeah.
And therefore, this is a person who is just built differently. And perhaps understanding the difference here matters most. And then the question is, how different are they built? So people in the spectrum, you have 8 senses.
Yes.
That's very important for you to know. And out of the 8 senses, each sense gets input inside you. Now, you need completely to decolonize that little that your mother taught you so that you can come to a level where you can understand what autism is.
Okay.
I don't know who told you this is red, or who told you what you are wearing is orange.
It's orange. Yeah. Yeah.
Who told you how much loud of noise is? Who said so? Who defined the perimeters?
Yeah.
Who told you, by the way, pilipili is curly? Who put? And therefore, there are people, when they receive a stimuli inside them, how they perceive it is a total, complete experience.
Yeah.
And therefore, these people, because of how they take the experiences inside them, they exhibit a little bit of either a nervousness or a seeking behavior because they want to associate themselves with what is happening in the environment. And therefore, we say, therefore, it becomes more of a behavioral issue because every single information that you conceive right down inside you, the end product is behavior. And therefore, quite often than not, people in the spectrum, people complain about how they behave. And therefore, my opinion is there should be no an excuse of how you behave because of who you are. It is the society that needs to style up and allow you to be you.
Hey. I feel like saying that's shy mentioned.
Yeah.
But that is really, really well put because, and even my friends and I, there was a time we sat and we asked ourselves, by the way, who told us that sitting on the table is wrong?
By the way.
You know, like, because there's a way we've been considered, and I'm curious to hear from you, Dr. Beatrice, in terms of the way we've been conditioned as a society, and then to also receive either information or even knowing how to handle, say, people on the spectrum, because we think this is what should be normal, but maybe not.
What's normal, by the way? Do you have an anemometer, by the way?
Dr. Beatrice, let's hear from you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There's this song I always sing about creating awareness. And I think, like Dr. has said, once you're aware of something and you know how it manifests, then you're able to treat it in a proper way, or even to respond to such people in an appropriate way. So one, like the show we are doing about creating awareness, about people who are living with autism, that there is nothing wrong with them, they are not sick, they are just built differently. So once we create that awareness and make people aware that this is how they behave and this is how they perceive information, and when you see them behaving the way they are behaving, then it is because of who they are. So once we create that awareness, because like I've seen people who are living with autism, they are misunderstood, and sometimes there is even violence meted against them because people don't understand them. So it's about creating awareness. And if you remember last time we were here, we were talking about making every space a safe space for all of us, including people who are living with autism. So for example, in church, in Sunday school, in school, do people know how people with such conditions behave? Do they know how to respond to them when they behave like that? So it's about creating awareness. Let even the Sunday school teachers understand that children who have this kind of characteristics, they are living with this condition, and they are not misbehaving. It's not a character flaw. It's not a discipline issue. Just making it safe for everyone to be understood. So I think that is what I would say, making, creating safe spaces everywhere, in school, in church, let people understand this is autism, this is how they are just built differently. And when they exhibit this kind of behavior, this is how to respond to them. And maybe also add this, I keep thinking about it, that parents who are living with children who have autism, we have to balance between isolating them and also overexposing them. Because we understand that there is a possibility that this child may have a meltdown, So if having lived with that child for a length of time, you understand the environment in which they can have such a meltdown. So why not, maybe minimize such exposure, so that you're also conserving the dignity of that child, while still balancing, stigma and also isolating them. So it's about creating awareness among even the parents, so that we also try to balance. Yes, we want them to live a normal life, but then we must also be careful about where we expose them to, so that we avoid some of these situations. Yeah,
it's true. I hear that, because most of the time we tend to castigate parents who protect their children, just keep them in the house. But we don't understand. Maybe they take them outside there. There's a lot of stigma. That's why they decided to just protect their children. But I hear you. Balance is very important. But Margaret, I know we have like a minute and a half or two before we go on a break. But just quickly to go back to when you realized that Amani is on the spectrum. When was that? Because I have had the story before, but just in case someone who has tuned in today for the very first time and would want to know more about Amani, can you just go back?
Thank you, and thanks for the wonderful contributions. It's I'm agreeing with a lot of the things you're saying, but so I discovered, I was the one in the country, I discovered when Amani was barely two and a half years. Because she was a lone kid then, we took her to a kindergarten earlier. She was still in Kenya. And I realized a lot of times when I go for work, my schedule, especially then. Now I've reduced my travel. But when I would come home, she would, honestly, before when she was little, she was just normal. She would queue. When I come in, she would run, like a mother. When you come into the door, even men, she would, she would respond and be so excited. But when I come home, these days, even if I'm gone for a week out of the country, she would actually be very busy on the TV. And a lot of times, immediately some sounds comes, she would block her ears. So I was like, is my child deaf, or is she just being snobbish? You were too little then. So now she's 12. Okay, perfectly okay.
Perfectly okay.
Now, I used to wonder, like, what is wrong? What happened to my child? What happened to her? Was it because I was away? And anyway, long story short, we started now the journey. I want to give a big shout out to our pediatrician then, Dr. Gatuki, wherever you are, God bless you, because he was honest. He was like, ma'am, we've been, she had gone for jabs and everything. We never missed a thing. Followed the whole, doctors, when you tell us, jab her this month, come back for dental. I am the kind that follows. So, I went to him and he was like, no, Mama Mani, honestly, I'm not familiar with this condition. Let me send you to a specialist. And the rest is a whole book on its own, because we first went to the ear specialist in Aga Khan, and they checked everything. Everything seemed okay. I mean, the story is too long, but to sum it up, we ended up in they call it developmental, somewhere in Gertrude. And, at some point, it's a bit sad because along the way, Amani was misdiagnosed. She went to theater. She had a middle ear surgery. This little girl is a miracle. Nothing short of a miracle, what you're looking at. I mean, what you're looking at. And for me, the reason I advocate for disability, true disability inclusion, is because I would not want any woman in hell and on earth never to go through what we went through, discovering, because I thought I'm learned, I'm educated, I'm very exposed, and I've seen autism in other countries. But here in this country, it is, honestly, the misdiagnosis is very high.
Still a lot.
I have seen, and after the surgery, what actually breaks my heart is we went for, how do you call it, sensory therapy, speech therapy. Nothing was working until the Lord showed me that diet for this kid, and God himself has done mega miracles on her.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's take a break because I really want to
Yeah.
hear that part, the surgery and the misdiagnosis, because that is a case for so many people. And I was telling Angela, my nephew
and it's costly.
has a mild
Really, it's
CP.
costly.
It's very costly. It's very costly, and he has been misdiagnosed, you know, over time. So so we'll come back and really explore that and see what are the loopholes and what do we need to do to really cover that. Because you'd assume doctors, you know, they have the information, they know, but you know, somewhere there's a bit of an issue. Well, let's take that break, and then when we come back, we'll address more on the same and also hear from Angela as well. But the question that we're asking you this morning is very simple. Have you ever been misunderstood, okay? And how did it, you know, feel, or what helped or hurt in that moment? You do not want to miss any part of the conversation after the break. So see you soon.
Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Wewe niwe ulisema kunioshe, ukaniosha bila wasiwasi. Wewe niwe uliumba bingu na hadi, tena ukanipa wimbo. Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Nataka kujua leo, wakujue, nataka kujua leo, oh na 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 na. Nataka kujue, wakujue baba, wakujue, wakujue, nataka kujue, wakujue ni Mungu. Hata kama kuna mawimbi, mimi najua wendo wangu unanilinda. Hata kama kuna mki na vitu vingi, unanilinda, unanilinda baba. Umenijaza nafsi yangu, mwalimu mkuu, furaha yangu. Hivyo hivyo, yangu najaza nafsi, na unipa nguvu, tena ukanipa wimbo. Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Wacha neno lako nitambe, nataka kujua leo baba, maana wewe ni wa maana. Nataka kujua leo, wakujue, nataka kujua leo, oh na 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 na. Nataka kujua leo, wakujue baba, kujue, wakujue baba, kujue leo, wakujue ni Mungu. Wacha nikueleza kubaba, nilisika baba, neno lako, neno zako nasema asante yeye. Nakusifu nikusifu, nilisemaka, wote nilisemaka, niko na wewe, wewe nakusifu, nakuinua, nakusifu milele. Oh, 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 si wewe ni wewe. Na 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 na. Oh, nakusifu wewe. Nataka kujua, wacha neno lako nitambe, nakujua baba, kwani wewe ni wa maana.
Give me high five. Give me high five already. That was good. Good job. Let me hold this for you. Please have a seat. Wow, did you see that move at the, almost at the end? That was really good. Good job, Amani. And yes, just in case you're tuning in right now and wondering, hiya, what is happening today on Wellness Wednesday? Listen, that is Amani, okay? Composer, beekeeper, you know, all those amazing things. And we're looking at World Autism Awareness Day, which will be happening tomorrow, but we start the conversation earlier and just get to really understand support, okay? What does it look like? And even when it comes to information, do we have enough information as far as autism is concerned? Because most of us think autism is just one thing. But like we said, it's a spectrum, okay? And sometimes we think, oh, witchcraft, mtu aliangalia mtoto wangu na macho mbaya. But I liked what Dr. Chego said. This is not a sickness at all. It's people on the spectrum are born differently, okay? So, and really need to understand that, okay? But we also have a question for you this morning, and the question is very simple. We're asking you, have you ever felt misunderstood, and what helped or what hurt in that moment? I've seen a number of your feedback on Facebook. We'll go through it in just a second. Hey, Mama Mani, I know how proud you are. You were just like, yes, you know. Tell us a little bit about that. Yes, good job to you. Yes, good job to you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that song?
Yebo.
Yes. It's called?
Yebo.
It's called Yebo.
Yes.
Hey, wow. Okay. Yebo. Mama Mani.
Yeah.
The song. First of all, like, how did it come about? But we were talking about the surgery earlier on. But let's talk a little bit about the song. Yes.
So this song, there's a young artist from the slum where I mentor. I think Korogocho, you know them.
Yeah.
He's called Vochi. The minute he saw Amani, he kept telling me, I see a gift in your daughter. And yes, for sure she sings. Today her voice is low, but I think the excitement, I think you can talk about stimulation.
Yes.
When kids get to different environment who are autistic, they get stimulated differently. Like, and she can react differently. I'm sure she'll agree.
Yes.
But anyway, so Vochi kept following me. Whenever I'll go to their place to mentor, she's like, Mama Mani, I even want to compose a song together with Amani. And the rest is history. So that was her first song. So it's very...
Wow. Yeah, because she was very young then.
She has very other songs. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
And in school, I love the way we embrace her. This one in church, when she starts praying, don't even get... Like, I don't know, to be honest, I'm a believer, and I believe that God makes us in very unique ways.
Yes.
Because the way she prays, I mean, sometimes she'll pray, we all crying, and then we just say amen. Because God has gifted her in a very special way. And of course, I think the viewers can also see that her speech is a bit not 100%, for lack of a better word, but she's there. She's there, and you know, we are just, I love what she keeps reminding me, quality of life. If we can give this quality of life, these kids the quality of life that God wanted them to have, I think the rest, God will judge us by how we have supported them.
Absolutely.
Because to be honest, I always say that we don't have twins in my family, but I have friends who have twins, 2 twins. If Winnie and I were twins, because I know you from a long time, but if Winnie and I were twins, we still would, even if we are not on the spectrum for sure, we still behave very differently.
Completely.
You see, even in a family, I'm in a family of 8, we are very different, different personality, complete, like heaven and earth. So I think it's important that we embrace these guys. We just support them. We call it globally, and thank God for the UN for coming up and honoring this day. Can I shock you? And I know I'm digressing a bit. I was very shocked, you know, early this year when I looked at the statistics for Kenya. 1 out of 25 kids. Okay, some people say 24, some people say 25, according to the Autism Society of Kenya, which is a recognized body here in Kenya. 1 out of 25 kids currently have this condition. So we can't afford to ignore. In the global scene, it's different. But I thank God for the UN even recognizing this day so that we create the awareness. We started creating the awareness on the 23rd of this March, of March, and we usually end after the third, you know, because there are other causes in the world, you know. This is not the only condition. So thank you, and thanks for having us. Big shout out to NTV and doctors like yourselves and mothers like Sweetheart here. I know she'll tell us her stories, book on its own. But you know, to also just create awareness, because this is national media, and you know, a lot of times, even the way you're saying churches, sometimes some communities and even workplaces, which is something I'm very passionate, you know, I'm in the corporate sector. I find that you find in other countries, there's Steve Jobs. If you've read Steve Jobs, you know that he had elements of what Amani has. And we know that he was not diagnosed, perhaps. Our favorite, people talk about this guy a lot because we are going to the moon. There's something these kids see that I might not see. Talk about visionary, talk about things. And it's, you know, even people with dyslexia, it's a neuro condition, similar. A lot of teachers will say, and big shout out to all teachers, we have a lot of respect for you guys, but a lot of teachers, when these kids were writing, dyslexic kids were writing from left to right, the teacher will be like, we'll slap you, the stubbornness out of you and tell you, we write from the right. And I love what Dr. Rio said. Who told us that the normal? What is normal? Can we define normal now?
You tell me.
Who said that we must write from left to right? If I went home and I was writing from left to right, I know my father would have issues.
You
But then you know
someone
Arabic
like
is
nobody's
written left,
business.
Right?
So there is nothing called
Right? So that thing that you think normal, you need to rethink it.
So reasonable accommodation is very critical. They're not, it's not to say that they're extra anything, but just reasonably accommodating them is what we say, quote unquote. Meaning that, for example, it's just like someone in a wheelchair. We will not give them this chair, right? We would reasonably, lower ourselves, probably even, our chair to their level. So it's not to say that they don't have goals. By the way, this one, she has very many goals in life. But reasonably accommodating means that even in the policy, we are accommodating in insurance cover. It's something we need to talk about, and that's why we're here. Policy makers, what more can we do to accommodate these guys? Because God wired them differently.
Absolutely. I see that. And Angela, I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier before we came on air, and said baby girl is 8 now?
Yes, she's 8 years old.
She's 8. And we were just talking about how, first of all, when you get that diagnosis, because you see, as a mother during pregnancy, you prepare, you do everything that you think is good, and and then the baby comes, and the baby is okay, and then the doctor says, there's something different about this baby. Let's go back to that moment for you, because you said it was hard.
Yes, it was a very tough moment. So I got, we were given the diagnosis in 2021, just immediately after COVID, a time like now, April, and it was extremely devastating, extremely devastating. I did not see that one coming. It was not, we were already coming out of a pandemic. I had been on maternity leave because I had just gotten a newborn. She was barely, I think, 6 months old. And then I had been going through a series of, taking for my second born for a series of tests. And at that point, in the midst of all that, is when I learned, the doctor confirmed that she's on the autism spectrum. It was extremely devastating. You do not see it coming. I had no knowledge of the condition. I had heard about it, but I had never read deeply about it. It was not in our immediate close family. So it was very shocking, but the doctor was very graceful. The doctor was very direct. The doctor was very helpful in sharing the news, but it was very devastating to hear.
I can only empathize, because you see, most of the times, because I want to believe there's some things that you noticed, right, along the way, and you're like, and because we're all, so by this by this time but what are some of those things that you notice and you're like, you know what, maybe let's just ask?
So for me, I noticed there was a problem, funny enough, when she was 6 weeks old. Maternal instinct. When she was 6 weeks old. Why? Because by the second month of a newborn, you expect them to be able to interact with you, especially when you're changing diaper, you're dressing them. You expect that eye contact and interaction, but she was busy staring at her fingers all the time. Right? So I would be changing her diaper, and because I had a firstborn before, I expected that. I knew that that needs to happen. So I used to wonder, like, what's going on? You're so obsessed with your fingers. So at the clinic, so I started raising the issue that, hey guys, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with her. And the doctor was like, it's a bit too early to tell. Let's keep tracking whether she's able to do a few things, because physically she was okay, physiologically she was okay, in other areas of development she was okay, as expected of a 6-week-old. So I think for me, the next red flag was at around 12 months. Why? Because she couldn't walk on her own. And she liked to drag her feet. If you were to hold her and you're trying to push her to walk, it's like she didn't want to do it. And at the same time, she was dragging her feet, not lifting and stepping. She was dragging her feet. So to some extent, what we had to do with the nanny at home was you make her stand in front of you, and then her feet are standing on your feet so that you start giving her the motion. Yeah? And then with time, we had to tell her that now you have to stand on your own and walk. So to train her to walk, we had to walk behind her. So she couldn't use the normal walker because she was not eager to push herself forward. Another thing I noticed is that she was a very easy child. Easy child in terms of when she's expected to crawl, she was not crawling, she was sliding on her bum. You know, she was very lazy, laid back, you know, and she was easy. If you put her here, even 3 hours later, you'll find her the same place, no chaos, but she was also not sleeping well. Yeah. So to me, I felt she was supposed to be more active than necessary. So to people around me, they were like, no, that's an easy child.
It's like everybody's dream.
I crave for a 9, 10, 11, 12-month-old who, when I live here, I will find them where I... But for me, I knew it's not supposed to be like that. I wanted the chaos. I wanted the chaos, So I think looking back, not from a point of regret, what I would like to share for those with young children, 10 years and below, is when you feel there's something wrong, especially for us mothers, make noise. Make a lot of noise. For me, I talked, maybe I whispered, but I think I did not make enough noise. But in 2021, once I was done with my maternity leave in January, I went to the pediatrician for normal clinic as I took the baby at 6 months and all that. And I told the pediatrician, today I'm not leaving until you tell me what's wrong with her. What's wrong with her? And she had just turned 3 years. And he was like, okay, Mama Nisa, I can see today you're serious. I told him, no, today you must tell me what's wrong here. So just as Margaret shared, we went for a hearing test and she passed. So her ears were working well, no fluid buildup, no abnormalities. And then from there we were sent to a developmental specialist and we did all the tests, the assessments, and that is when the diagnosis was confirmed that there was something wrong. It was a bittersweet because I think I enjoyed not knowing what was wrong, but I think my driving factor is that the quality of life was low. Not only her life, my life. So as Dr. Duncan shared earlier, the children, when they are younger, they manifest differently. There are those who are sensory seeking, and then there are those who are avoiding. The ones who are avoidant, they don't want to be hugged, they don't want to be touched. But my daughter was sensory seeking. So it was to the extent where I couldn't even do housework when she's awake. She would want to sit and be cuddled for hours and rocked on end. So you could not do housework when she's awake. So you'd have to wake up very early, and she's an early morning person. So you have to wake up at 4, 5, do everything you need to do, be ready, because when she wakes up, you start the hugs, and you sit in one position, and you're just rocking, and rocking, and rocking. And to me, with time, I was like, no, that's a very poor quality of life, because I was like, I have other kids. So I have my firstborn who needs attention, who had just resumed school after COVID at 4, 5 years. Then I had a last-born baby. So I was like, no, this is now dysfunctional. So that is what drove me to tell the pediatrician, no, today we must know. And I'm not leaving your office till I know what's going on. Yes.
Oh, I see that.
Yes.
Wow. And Dr. Bishop, just to pick from that, because again, parents are told, mtoto akifika 3 months, this is what, ideally they will be doing. 6 months, 1 year, and whatnot. And sometimes you might think, oh, well, maybe today they don't feel like playing. Or maybe today they don't feel like, so can we talk about those milestones and what to sort of like look out for so that we're also able to ask those questions early and get to know what exactly is happening with my child at any given point.
Okay, and I think I'm enjoying this conversation because of talking with people who are already living the experience. Because, sometimes we may just talk about things that we have read or, but this is lived experience, you see? Because, like she says, a child who is growing, as they go through the milestones, there are some things you will see, like a baby, you know, a baby who is just been born, you know, as you're changing the diapers, they make eye contact, and as time goes on, they start uttering some words like "mom," you know, such things. So being aware of the milestones and how they follow will help a mother to track, or the caregiver to track and realize that something is not right here. And like she said, when you notice when something is not right, then it is good to speak out. You know, just go to the pediatrician and let her know. And that is why we are saying that mental health has to be infused in every service. You know, even when mothers go for prenatal, postnatal, because you see there is a time when a child is supposed to start, you know, walking, you know, start trying to walk at the age of 1.5 years. And like she's saying, when you realize that this is the age when they're supposed to be trying to walk and they're not doing that, then you realize there is a problem here. So I think the idea is on every milestone, once you realize that there's something that is amiss, it is good to speak with the doctor. Isn't this child supposed to be trying to talk at this age? Isn't she supposed to be trying to walk? Isn't she supposed to be trying to, you know, to do this and this? Isn't she supposed to be almost joining school, and yet we see like she's not ready? You know, milestones. What is it that is being missed? And like she said, make noise. Let the pediatrician, let the doctor know. I noticed something. I noticed something. And that is why I say that, you know, this awareness needs to be created everywhere. Because sometimes even as a mother, you may miss something, but a teacher sees it. You see a teacher will say, okay, your child is okay, but when she's playing with the, you know, she plays hard, you know, she's violent, you know, she's, you know, or maybe she likes to isolate herself. Have you noticed that? So that we have a triangle where we have, you know, the parent, you know, the teacher, and the student. When you work together in collaboration, you notice something that the other is missing, and then an intervention can be made. So the idea is to create that awareness. Let also parents know that when you give birth to a child, this is how they grow between the age of 0 to 1.5 years. This is what a normal child, you know, should be doing. A child who has a wet diaper, a child who is hungry and they are not crying, you know, that is a red flag, isn't it? You know, because like you're saying, she was you say that an easy child. You see, easy, and there's something she said which I think is very important to highlight, that she was comfortable not knowing what was wrong. You see, because I've seen many parents who have children. Everyone else can see that there's something that is amiss with this child. It is like they are the only ones who are not seeing. But you can tell they are comfortable not knowing. And you see, as you know, as the observers, you don't want to raise that with the parent, because they'll think, oh, now you are stigmatizing my child. You know, so you are saying just let it be. You know, so like you say, it's about parents being taken through the milestones, and I think they should be infused even in the prenatal clinic, so that parents are aware that these are the milestones. This baby that you are about to give birth to at the age of 0 to 1.5, these are the normal things that so if you miss that, let us know. You know, so that we have interventions. And as doctors, we know that every condition in the world can be helped if it is noticed early. An early diagnosis, it doesn't matter whether it's cancer, it's what is what. An early diagnosis changes the outcomes.
I see.
And
I'm so sorry, because we need to go on a break. Then when we come back, we want to understand how early is early. Because most people would tend to wait. And like you were told, 6 months is too early to give a diagnosis. So let's wait it out, just continue to observe. So how early is too early, and the different interventions for because like I said, it's a spectrum, right? So I want to believe the interventions might also be a little bit different. So we'll unpack more on the same. But also just go through your feedback on the question that we're asking you this morning, and that is, have you ever been misunderstood, and what helped or what hurt? So this one says, thank you so much for the awareness about autism. I have learned something, and this is Kasiri Geoffrey from Uganda. Oh, thank you so much for watching. Okay, and then this one says, greetings, Sweeney and the panelists. Imagine I was mistaken my first day at work. The way the receptionist looked at me with a lot of humiliation. I don't know why, but I really felt bad. Then anasema mimi natamani nikuful. Ai we, to assume ni saa sita. Let's assume it's midday. And then this one says, hey, we gave birth to a son and he was diagnosed with CP. We've been taking him for therapy. Upon doing that, he was recently discovered to be autistic. What are the treatments and or controlling ways? I think they mean more of like management. Yes. And is it possible to have both, right? Yes. So I think maybe when we come back from the break, we can unpack more on that and also the spectrum. But keep sending in your questions or your comments as far as the question of the day, or really if you have a question on autism. Today is the day we address all your questions, okay? So see you after the break. Listen, the conversation clearly continues. Even you and Kumoto and at some point we're like, yeah, Dr. Chengo, you don't say anything else until we come back on the air, okay? Because he's sharing a lot of things that we feel it's important for everybody really, to know. But today in the show, we're discussing autism awareness, and we're saying, yes, the day will be marked tomorrow, but we start the conversation early right here on Your World, and we really get to understand autism and humanity, and we're saying every life has value, okay? It has value. So I think today, the entire day, instead of you think about fooling other people, you think about how valuable, okay? Every life is. But we also have a question for you. The question is, have you ever felt misunderstood, and what helped or hurt in that moment? So briefly, just to go through your comments on Facebook. So Mwangeli Ruth anasema, many times, but over the years, I have accepted the truth that not everyone will understand me, my story, or the life I choose. And this is fine with me, because not everyone can see things from other people's perspectives. This is something that gave me a lot of freedom. I do not feel the urge to explain myself to anyone. Absolutely. I just do me. Wow. I really like that. Right? I know. I really like that. All right. And then Vero Anasema, misunderstood. I don't explain more than I need to at some point. I let it be. I let you conclude whatever. Okay. Wow. And then another person says, you forgive them. Just like when Jesus was misunderstood and crucified, they don't know what they are doing. So just forgive them and you go. And then Shelley says, I choose to live a life of freedom. And then Evans and Sama, yes. And I was so embarrassed. And then this is James Mugo who says, misunderstood. I cannot waste a single minute trying to explain myself. Wow. And then Kolo and Asema, people will talk about you and forget it in a week. So always do you. Okay? Could you explain? Maybe at gunpoint. Okay. Could you explain? And then Kipngetich Calaban Asema, do not chase answers again to ruin yourself, to explain too much. Just move on. Wow. I really like that. Wow. Okay, so during the break, with this heavy cover, Dr. Chengo, you know everything that you said during the break. You say it now. But there was a question. There was a question on autism. I think the child was diagnosed with autism with CP. With CP, and then they told autism. So is it possible to have both? And the answer is yes. Okay.
Then there is a very high possibility that autism is a neurological disorder, and CP is equally a neurological disorder. But the difference is CP is not. It's an injury to the brain, and growing brain. Yeah. And it is not CP only. Whenever you see autism diagnosis, there is a very high possibility that there could be another comorbidity coming in there. Okay. And one of them, the closest one, is ADHD. It's very difficult. Of course, when you talk about assessment, there is she will talk about, she could probably explain this a little bit better. There is a differential diagnosis between ADHD and autism. They are not one, but they could easily exist in one. Other things like learning disabilities or learning difficulties, things like dyslexia, these things like dyscalculia, dysgraphia, just to mention but a few. They are likely to coexist in the same learner. And then the other thing is mental health. And we need mental health is not autism.
Thank you.
Those are two very different. Camera 7. Yes. Yeah. So mental health is not autism, and autism is not mental health. These are two but very different things. But you know what? It is the so you people call yourselves normal in quotes. You push until these people flip over to mental health.
Thank you.
And knowledge here is very important.
Yes.
And I love the question whether you have, there's some guy who has said he can only explain when he's
A gunpoint.
and a gunpoint, and I completely agree. And therefore, if you ever find, particularly for the people who are directly affected, still in the spectrum, and one of the most powerful things I've learned in my practice is teaching. I teach them when they get the age of 7, why you behave the way you do, and why you should not keep on having an excuses and explaining you too much about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you teach these people about this, you're likely to keep mental health diagnosis away from them. Because every day, society has this conveyor belt of how things should happen, how they should look like. And every other time you tend to be a little bit different from this normal, then you stop being called names. And you know, one of the most interesting about the human heart, there's something called soul. And soul, ni kitu inakuzungumzianga uko ndani yako. So if I call you a dog, you get what I mean? It will keep on hurting you.
Yes.
If I keep on questioning, even when I go and I'm no longer with you, it will keeps on coming up again and feeling, why did so and so, by the way? So the heart that comes from verbal language by the so-called themselves normal towards people in the spectrum does not make them even better. And therefore, in conclusion about this, the multiple diagnosis is, we should never invest in people who are directly affected. We need to invest a lot in you call yourselves normal, so that you know, and when you know, you let them be.
Okay, yes.
So there should be less about talking about. We should not invest in these children about do, don't. But we should invest on you people, on understanding them. And then you don't have to bother yourselves too much about people who are living their own lives, and they are made completely different with the way you are made. And there is nothing called normal.
But also to unpack a little bit more on the spectrum, because again, like we said, there's some people who probably look at Amani and think,
She looks
What's
normal.
wrong with her?
Yeah.
you know.
Speaking of which, Winnie,
Right?
in church, I remember, the first time we
I speak in church.
You speak in
Yes,
church.
and then I know how to worship in God.
Yay! And what's your favorite color? Do you have a best friend in church?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
What's her name?
Ikawe, Mama Ikawe, and Auntie Juliana.
Oh, just say hi to them.
Yes, but now I'm Bitola, and then I used to buy with Tesla cars.
Hey!
Okay.
Listen.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
We are clocking it. We are clocking on the Tesla.
Thank you, Mommy. So I was. My thought has just disappeared.
Oh, no. On the looking at her and you think she's okay,
in
she's
church.
fine.
Yes, thank you for reminding
Yeah.
me. Now, in church, I remember the first time when we came back and I was looking for a church. She moved me from a smaller church because space was so kidogo. The ADHD you've spoken about, she was diagnosed with autism with a little element of that.
Okay.
So she used to be so hyper that you would almost get dizzy. And how we knew also that she was a musician, she would go in front so fast. When I'm just sitting down, she's already in front grabbing the mic. I was like, God, take me away a few times. And then anyway, so the first time I show up in this church, and I remember the usher saying, Mom, you can talk to your daughter. She doesn't have to elope. So eloping, she will tell you, these kids with this condition, sometimes they're like, I've sat for too long.
Yeah.
In
Why-
fact,
why?
this is a miracle, guys, you're looking at.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people look at her and say, like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with her?
Yeah.
But this girl, those days, she would, 2 minutes is too long for her. And maybe if I can talk about the symptoms of autism, a lot of times she has mentioned, and a lot of you have mentioned, eye contact is a problem. Serious, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
It is like going to the moon and coming back. Like Amani looking at me for a long time. I mean, she's in a
Hey,
good place.
love.
But yes, but she's come a
But
long
my
way.
birthday is January 21st.
Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie.
Yes.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Belated.
Bad.
Now,
What do you want us to give you for your birthday?
Thank you. We will talk behind the camera. The other one, parents, maybe for people who are watching us and wondering, what is this autism in simple terms? Also, other than social, this eye contact, the other big one is they stick to themselves. Social interaction, it is a monkey. When you hear Amani talking about her few friends, like in school, one of the things I had to be very involved is that when they go to play over break time, you will find Amani in a corner, maybe swinging in her own world. I don't know which planet.
Run in one lap.
All right.
Well, look at her.
Okay.
Yeah,
She can run laps. But those days,
more lap.
okay, sweetie. But you know, she would stick in a corner.
Yeah.
She's in her own world. Elon Musk and this one in their own Mars, going to the moon and someplace else. And maybe the other thing is also other developmental delays, like speech. You can see Amani has a bit of speech delay, but she's in a good place, we thank God. And maybe other few things. So maybe for parents who have younger kids who have not been diagnosed, those are things to look out for. And I thank God for this awareness, because it is lacking.
In so many aspects.
And denial.
I think another area that we need to pay attention to in the development of our child is, for me, one of the core things I realized is the loss of capabilities. So when my child was 18 to 24 months, she by that time she could walk on her own, she could look around, she could respond a bit to you, she could try and repeat to you. But in 2020, at the onset of COVID, when she turned 2 years old, she now spent the whole of 2020 losing function. She went mute completely. She was no longer sleeping. Where she could pick a food biting and put in her mouth, now she could not even hold a spoon. So there was that loss of function at the 2-year mark, which was equally very confusing.
I can imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was equally confusing.
Because I also wanted to ask, in part, more or less the same question in terms of, because we, again, spectrum, right? And we see some children probably like more on the severe side. And a lot of people would actually tend to ask that question. That, does it progress maybe to the severe part, or are you born already with a severe, probably like type of autism, or what usually happens along the way? Because I don't want to imagine immediately after the diagnosis, or even before,
This was before
right?
the diagnosis, when she lost
you would expect
certain
them to be a
abilities.
little bit better, sort of.
Now, you see, from a very neurological point of view, development is a byproduct of experiences that you get from the environment.
Okay.
You must understand that. Now, a child who is completely dysregulated from inside, and the central nervous system cannot process anything, because in the beginning I said, you must be able to receive information inside you. And therefore, a child who is completely dysregulated, that there is a very high possibility that instead of gaining, you can be able to lose. Now, of course, I'm very cautious every other time I see a child who has lost function. But one of the most important places where I could go is to probably investigate a little bit further, because there is a comorbidity that could be there, a seizure. Seizure disorders. And sometimes seizure, not all seizures, they are like, of course, I love the way the laymen know every seizure is epilepsy, which is not completely true. But every other time, there can be seizure that cannot be seen. And seizures all the time don't have to present like this. You know, the falling and so even sometimes, you know, there are seizures that can happen and they present themselves as laughing.
Gosh, I hear.
That was actually my experience. She just used to laugh out of the blue. Just bursts of laughter, unexplained. There's nothing happening, nothing. She's not even watching the TV. Just on her own, she just suddenly laughs very loudly.
If you see this is roll out a seizure, you do something called an EEG. When you roll out a seizure completely and there's no seizure now, you come now with a strategy to feed the neuro, to feed the central nervous system, so that it can be able to get information. I love the question whether you ask whether it gets better with time. And the fact is, and I want you to note these things, the central nervous system is one among the most complicated organ that God ever created. And it has one very important capacity. Number one, the central nervous system can learn. It will learn. It must learn. It ought to learn. It shall learn. The central nervous system does not know how not to learn. Even if you don't give it anything to learn, either so deliberately you chose not to give, or you don't give because you don't know. That means you ignore. It will learn anyway. What does anyway mean? Whatever was available around it, it must get inside it. And therefore, if you chose not to give by plan and strategy to re-educate it, then what you get out is a behavior that you definitely not like it.
True.
And therefore, the better that you are referring to is paged on feeding the neural cells again and again and again. I don't know whether you ever heard of this. It's a very common theory talked in the corridors of education, the Pavlov theory. Now, remember, a dog in the Pavlov theory is primitive. It's not complicated like human. It's only human who get to that level. So if a dog can learn, I mean, honestly, and therefore, my most crying point is parents who choose not to know because they choose not to do anything. They choose the child to learn anyway. And there's no life here. In other words, you are hurting, you are antagonizing all the benefits that your child would have benefited from. So please go seek for the answer. And when you get the diagnosis, choose to be on the safe side and do the best that you can by giving that little sense input. We call it sensory diet. One a bit by bit, and you'll definitely get results.
You know what? I've held numerous conversations on autism, but I've never had that being explained that way. Thank you for really pointing that out. Dr. Beatrice as well, for early intervention, right? And you said the earlier the better. A lot of people would ask how early is early enough to get better, I don't want to say prognosis, but outcome as far as autism is concerned, given the spectrum.
Yeah, and I think before I answer that, I needed to just highlight something that Dr. said.
Yes.
Because you had asked whether someone is born with mild, moderate, or profound, and whether it is possible for it to move from mild. And I think what Dr. has said is that the environment plays a very crucial role. So if nothing is done, then someone with a mild, who is at the mild end of the spectrum can move to the profound. You see, if nothing is done, if there is no intervention, because like Mama Amani said, interventions also include dietary interventions, meaning that when a diagnosis is made early and a parent accepts that this is the condition, then they'll do everything possible to ensure that it does not progress to the profound. And how early is early? I think the earliest, the moment you notice something that is out of ordinary. Because like I said, that we have to infuse issues of even mental health in the prenatal, postnatal, so that when you ask these questions, every child has a file, isn't it?
Yes.
So that will be noted and put in the file. And as the child progresses, then you'll see, oh, we had noticed this at 2 months, we had noticed this at 1 year. So I would say, like you asked about the milestones, a child who is 1 year to, 0 to 1.5 years, we communicate to them through the skin. We call it skin therapy. They like to be held, they want to feel the heartbeat of the mother and all that. And they will respond to that. A child who is crying and the mother holds, they just, they'll be quiet because they have felt a familiar heartbeat. But you notice that you are doing this and the child is not responding. The child is where the child is hungry and they are not crying. that is a red flag. Let it go into the file of that child. You see, so that's why I'm saying the earliest you notice that something is not right. Because interventions can be made, you know, even dietary, like she said, so that you are aware that if an intervention is not made, this will progress and it will become worse. A child of 2 years, you'll do toilet training, they are trying to walk and all that, and you notice, like she said, that they are not picking, they are not walking. They let that go into the file. And remember, there is also what we call the cognitive behavioral therapy. So that when you notice the good things, then you are able to encourage that, so that you know that can grow. And when you notice something that is wrong, then you intervene so that it doesn't progress. A child who is a school-going age at around 5 years, you know, they are starting to be social, they are making friends, and then you notice that they like to stay in the corner, they are not making eye contact, and when they play with others, they are angry, they are violent. You know, let that also get noticed and an intervention is made. You know, at 5 years, they are also starting to compete with the other children in school. Then you also notice about their performance. We said it is not a mental problem, but when you notice that this child is like they are not learning, then it means that there is an adjustment that needs to be made so that they can learn better. Because I like the analogy that someone once said, that if you ask a fish and a monkey to compete in climbing a tree, then the fish will live the rest of its life thinking that it is stupid. But take that same fish to the water and the monkey to the water, then it is the turn of the monkey to think it is stupid. So what are the waters of this child? What is the tree of this child? And they can climb it very well. And that's why even parents need to do what we call active listening. Notice what is wrong, notice what is right. Then let what is right grow. And that is how you see Amani singing. Because the mother noticed there is a gift here. And now she has developed that gift. And she's good. And ask another child to come and compete with Amani. She may not have the autism spectrum, but she cannot sing, she cannot stand in front of a crowd. And this one can do that. So that is her tree. Those are her waters, and she navigates very well. So I think, like you said, how early is early? Just to answer that question, the earliest. We notice a problem. Because like we said, an early diagnosis helps to manage a condition better. It doesn't matter which condition.
I see that. We're due for a break, but no, you can do that in like a minute, 30 seconds maybe.
I wanted to build up on Dr. Chengo's point on environment. The journey with my daughter working with autism has taught me to value play. The value of play, what he was talking about, the environment. Because the sensory nervous system, I look at it like a telecommunication system. Like right now, calls are coming in, calls are going out, SMS are coming in, and then the telecommunication company has all this equipment that must ensure activity is happening. So what I observed is that because of that lack of communication and ability to handle all the signals is where now the environment the child is in becomes very stressful. Becomes very stressful, and that's how you find they have locked in and they are detached, and it's like they are in their own world, right? So when she says that you start as early as possible, I would not even say start as early as possible because of autism or any other developmental disorder. I would say let children be children right from the beginning. Take them out, let them play with the soil, let them, let them feel, let them touch. Don't restrict them in the house, right? Because this journey taught me not to take for granted basic things like the ability to play, to stand, even to point. A child pointing and saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," you might get irritated and the whole day you're like, "Sasa huyu mtoto ananisumbua." But me, I wish to hear, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," and I have never had that, right? I've never had that. So be keen on the environment for any child that's growing. Expose them to the world, expose them to nature, to the environment, let them play. Let's not limit them on the screens. Let them be children and let them discover.
We give them phones, be like, she can't daddy, mommy. No, allow them to experience all those things. Because that is what we're doing now to our kids. Like, Baba, don't touch soil. Baba, don't eat that. No, allow them to
to do so.
And that is how you
Tupitie a bit
notice
of
if
feedback,
something
yeah.
is wrong.
Exactly.
When you expose them.
Exactly.
Better to hear some of your feedback, and then when we come back, there's so much really to unpack on the conversation this morning on autism awareness. But let's go through some of your feedback or your questions on WhatsApp. Philip, if we have them ready, we can go through them. Yes, there we have. Okay, so this one says, do we have a special school for kids with autism? Okay, we will answer that. And then, do we have more or do we take a break? Okay, all right, so this one says, thank you so much for the awareness about autism. I have learned something. Oh, this is Kasiri, still from Uganda, and continues to say, my niece keeps knocking her head on the wall and scratching herself. Could it be autism? Okay, 2 questions. I think this is more you and Dr. Beatrice.
Yeah, you know, as doctors, we don't look at one thing and say, this is it.
Yeah.
You have to do an investigation. And I think the best thing is for that child to be taken to a pediatrician or a doctor who will look at the spectrum. Remember, we talked about differential diagnosis, meaning that even when we arrive at a diagnosis like autism, we have to ask ourselves, what else can it be? Could it be, so that you're not treating ADHD while it is or autism, you see. So I would say for her, yes, that is one of the symptoms of autism, but it doesn't have to mean that it is that. Okay. It is good to look at the whole, because we have parameters. We have parameters and we have assessments that can be made so that you can arrive at a conclusion that this is autism. So she needs to be investigated because, again, it is not normal, quote unquote. I think Dr. will be on my case.
Yes.
to keep knocking your head.
I think to add to her point, I have experienced what you're talking about.
Yes.
One of the behaviors that I've observed in my daughter, it has heavily reduced, though it's still quite there right now, is knocking on the head, amongst other things. For me, I call it self-harm.
Yes.
Self-harm is a big problem in the neurodivergent children. I call it self-harm. She has banged her head on the floor, on the walls, and all this was in the motions of emotional distress. So I found that it happens a lot when she's not emotionally regulated, right? And maybe she feels you guys are not understanding. She's trying to express a need. So this is a nonverbal child who can't tell you, I'm hot, I need you to remove my sweater. Can't tell you, I'm pressed, I need to go to the loo. They can't tell you, I'm hungry. So what happens? With that build-up of tension and emotion, then it comes out. So it can be violence to themselves or violence to the people who live with them. So I have experienced that. It's not something to be taken lightly because they can injure themselves. It's what she called the meltdowns. And it can take hours and hours on end. For the first, I think, 3 years, 2021 up to 2023, my daughter would even have 6 to 7 hour meltdowns. She would start at night at 11 p.m. and finally settle at 5 a.m. Right? And it's meltdown, and she would go around and she's pulled down curtains and she's banged her head on the wall. And when she sees you, she's ramming you, she's kicking you, she's pushing you, she's pinching you. And those were clearly signs of dysregulation, as Dr. Duncan mentioned. Right now, she's well regulated through the interventions that we have done. But I think no matter what is happening, it may not necessarily self-harm and dysregulation may not always point to autism. But I wanted to say that it should absolutely not be taken lightly. Should not be taken lightly.
Angela, really, for pointing that out. Amani, do you want to take us for a break? Just look at the camera and say, see you. Okay. Which one do you want to look at?
One?
Okay, this one. Camera 2. That one. Okay. Just stand here. Just come here close to me. Very nice. Okay, so look at that one. Okay. Okay. Oh, we use this one. This one. Okay. Yes. And then say, see you.
See you after the break.
Yay! Amani is going to take my job. These guys are still... Listen, Dr. Chengo, welcome back to the show. The conversation this morning is on autism awareness. And yes, there's so much to cover. There's so much to talk about. Though we're still talking about it during the break. But we're asking you... have you ever felt misunderstood, and what helped in that moment, or what hurt the most in that moment? So keep sending in your feedback. But right about now, so you mentioned a bit of, not even a bit, misdiagnosis, right?
Yes.
Angela, did you experience misdiagnosis?
No.
Not really. No. Yeah, and I think this is a gap probably that we need to really address, because like I said, sometimes we'd look at doctors and I say, but you guys know, see, so why are we still getting misdiagnosis? But let's start with you, Miss, Mama Mane, in terms of, because you said you went through surgery, right?
Yes.
So, and then after that, did anything else, happen
Yes.
up until you got the diagnosis?
Yes. So after the ear, they call it middle ear. There's a medical term they use. I don't even want to remember because it's a very hurtful topic. It really bothers me because I'm the one who signed the consent, and I'd even sought second opinion.
Yeah.
But with all due respect to the doctors, I believe that this doctor isn't even known in the fraternity, and it's like a scheme where they do this middle ear surgery in the name of deaf. This child is not deaf. For sure she hears you. Yeah? And I thank God. Anyway, long story short, after the surgery, I needed to go back to the same facility for sensory. Sensory is because her senses were very, like Amani, you could not braid her hair. You could not come close to these ears, including cleaning. You know how you clean the ears? Or anything around her ENT, ear, nose, and this whole system, Anyway, so we went back for sensory, also to calm her down. She used to be hyper like a kite. Sweetie, not now, but those days. Sweetie, you're the best. You're the best. You're happy. Sweetie, I'm not talking now. I'm talking many years ago when she was little.
She's like, no, I'm okay. I'm
happy.
happy.
Sweetie, you're okay. You're perfectly okay. Yeah. God made you wonderfully, fearfully, and wonderfully made.
Yes.
Anyway, so she used to be very hyper. So we needed to calm her energy. There is a whole, how do they call it? Occupational therapy and sensory. Yeah. But anyway, long story short, now after that we went to the same facility for 6 months, and I was not seeing any change. I had called the insurance companies and I said, please, I need a third opinion. Can I go to another neuro? Forgive me if I don't know the terms very well. I landed in this sweet lady, and please allow me. I know it's not allowed, but allow me to shout out to her. I am still saying, now that Amani has speech, we are going to her office to celebrate her. She's called Dr. Samia. I had not met these beautiful people. I wish I had met you. I met this one
Samia
2 years
is the
ago.
mother of neurology.
Dr. Samia Pauline. Dr. Samia Pauline, wherever you are, may God bless you, because she, I was given this contact from the insurance company. I was desperate, guys. Have you ever been desperate? Desperate because I'm like, there's got to be more. I am doing everything. Every week I would go with this one to somewhere in Mutaiga Gertrude's hospital. I would go. I am not seeing any changes. And long story short, twice a week I have landed. I have taken her back to school. At 8 o'clock, I need to be chairing meetings. I was working full time by the time you met me. And anyway, it was very tough for me. Long story short, I land in Dr. Sam, finally got an appointment. I land in her office. 5 minutes. Amani walk around. There's a way you assess the child. And I love what you both said. Investigate. Don't assume she's autistic because the mother thinks and the cousins say, And in 5 minutes, she looked at me in the eye. And this is why I am talking about denial. You see, I was also in denial because I'm like, what in the world is happening? She already had ear surgery. So I'm expecting her to stop blocking her ear whenever she hears some cartoon she doesn't like. It's selective hearing in autism. Anyway, long story short, in 5 minutes, I couldn't believe it. She looked at me in the eye. I was the only one in the country. I mean, I was alone that day. And I remember she looked, Mama Amani, your daughter has autism. She said the whole thing, defined it. Sweetheart of diagnosis. And for me that day, I believe it was like going to heaven and getting my liberated. I was set free. Because for a long time I'm like, okay, tell me, my child has been told she's not deaf. What is it? What is it? And long story short, so we started the journey. And guess what? Before I left Aga Khan, because she's in the private wing, there's a gentleman. I wish I remember his name. He's a nutritionist. He was wearing this, you call them scrubs? I remember my sister in the US, they say scrubs. He looked at me, he could see this is a very disturbed mother with a young kid, of course. You know, Amani did not have safety. This child used to go head on with the vehicles. So every time when you see me with Amani before, even now, I still have paranoia. You see me holding her. Sweetie, you're fine. I'm not talking now. But you know, yeah, you're happy. You know, I love you. I love you so much. Now, as I'm walking down on the, I don't remember the floor, this gentleman looks like this is a mother who can almost like run down somebody. And he's telling me, Mom, what's the issue? What is it? I said, I've been given this paper. I've been told to go to a nutritionist because Dr. Samia prescribed me to start using diet and go for speech therapy if possible. Do you know the gentleman is also a savior to this child? He told me, Mom, before you do anything, the things you've been written for here, go start doing them. One of them, for example, was to avoid wheat. You will talk about it from a medical perspective. For her, I know it, and by the way, parents with these kids, do not assume because they worked for money it will work for you. Please seek medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but I'm speaking from our lived experience, that for this child, avoiding sugar. This is how she ended up we started keeping base for her. That honey there, I'm sure you will get a taste of it. Growing herbs, rosemary, when we...
Honey and rosemary.
Yeah, Amani pure honey. This one is a business lady. Now she has a honey brand, which is also called Amani Pure Honey, right? And the farm is also named after her because I realized the honey, the sugar we avoided has really made even her speech. This child could not call me mom. And she can tell you how bad I don't know how I feel. For a mom, the fact that your child, it's a painful area, yeah? And now another thing was avoiding animal products, especially milk from the cow. We, for a long time, were going to Healthy You. Because of time, I'll not share here, to buy rice milk. It's not made here in Kenya. We could only get from because I realized there's something that was triggering, especially her behavior. She would be hyper, she would not focus, she would not, sweetie, you're okay.
I really love her. She's like,
I love you.
She's like, Mommy, I'm okay. I am okay. I promise I'm okay.
Now, you can see she's come a long way. But those days, now, what I'm trying to say is that when you get the right diagnosis, when you finally get these angels in the medical sector like yourselves and the Dr. Samias of the world, guys, I cannot overemphasize. And I know she will say that it means a lot to the diagnosis, and even it helps us with acceptance.
Yes.
Because now you're dealing with something you don't know what it is, what's the end of it, what do you do, interventions.
I see that. I think we have a question in relation to that, and I think this is where you will come in and answer that, and also to hear from you in terms of supporting and, you know, just helping, especially with the diet. So this one says, what about the diet for the kids? How can I get to reach Dr. Chengo? I have a son. They turned 6 years last month, and he has the issue of autism, and probably this is where we bring in diet. Okay, what to avoid, what to give, and also we'll hear from Angela as well. Yes.
Just before I talk about diet, let me go a little bit back again to the ear. I'll try and shorten this one as much as possible.
Okay.
Now, the human ear, apparently, the main function of the human ear is not hearing.
Yeah, it's balance.
The human ear is designed for your balance. Now, the human ear, particularly what she described, called the inner ear, because I'm not very convinced that this could have been a misdiagnosis, by the way. Because the inner ear and concentration, the eye contact, attention, they are tied together. Now, where you lack these three things, eye contact, attention span, and concentration, it is not possible to get speech.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I'll go back a little bit to the inner ear. And I want to explain the inner. The inner ear has two types of hair, type 1 hair and type 2 hair, nywele. Inside, there is water. There are 2 other types of water. I don't want to go to the details.
Yeah.
Now, you remember she talked about play. Who talked about play? It's her.
Yeah.
When a child engages in play, play helps the water in the ear rotate as much as possible.
Okay.
When the water rotates, the hair sends information, and the more you know, when it is rotated, it means you are engaging in something physical activity.
Yeah.
Play is the only sole occupation that ever exists for children.
Oh, yes, true.
And when a child engages in play, play uses motor. When there is motor use, you send messages to another very interesting organ called the limbic system. And I'm going to go into details in it. Now, when you stimulate the limbic system, I don't know whether you know this concept of a small child. You know this one? Why do you do that to a child, Winnie, by the way?
We say to calm them down.
Now, it calms the child down. When it calms the child down, the system is likely to close, and this process is called sleep. In other words, concentration, attention comes from a calm opportunity that is born by the inner ear. And therefore, it's okay to go down and see whether the inner ear or try make clear just before you clear this thing is perfect. Of course, I'm not sure what reason you are given to go into the inner ear, and whether there was no other option of getting inside the inner ear and make sure that it's clean without necessarily having to penetrate inside and go. However,
but I could have also been told that she has autism because it was so obvious.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
but thank
when you trigger calmness, at the age of 2 years, or even as early as the 2nd month of a child, the child has an habit of being fascinated and taking time to concentrate. And sometimes they would concentrate and see them smile by themselves. That is the very ever milestone of speech.
At 8 weeks. Yeah.
You must understand this. If you understand, you sort of
Repeat that slowly.
you rescue yourself from many things.
On behalf of mothers and parents.
Now, that if you can never know, that's the first early intervention you should do. That time, talk to your child. The skin to skin moment, talk to your child. It's an opportunity to initiate a conversation. Now, this opportunity builds eye contact. At the age of 2, children don't have, at the age of 1 towards 2, they only have sounds. Sounds are classified into 2. We have vowels and consonants. And at that point, before the vowels and consonants are joined together to make a word, children look at you straight to your lips. And it's called lip reading skill. And that is what many times lags behind for children to be able to, if you cannot lip read, you will not articulate. Because sounds needs articulation. I don't want to go into detail because it's a very detailed thing, and I know. Like now, for example, I've listened to Amani talk, and you can tell Amani has speech, but the language, there is an issue. Now, let me be very specific, the English language. The English language is built by tools. And one of the tools here is called noun. A noun is a name of a place, an object of a person.
English class.
Yes. The other one is called a verb.
It's a doing word.
A verb is a doing word.
Yes.
And then in between a verb and a noun, because nouns all the time they verb, in between here you have consonants that tend to go in. And therefore, now this is one where you need to concentrate with the money, definitely. I know now you can get it in between here and then build the whole consequences of tools. And you can never ignore the ear, the human, and particularly the inner ear in all these conversations.
Okay.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
And therefore, I don't know what you had asked me before I get
About diet, but let me hear from her and then we'll come to you to
like I
now summarize
digressed,
the diet. Yes.
Okay,
What
so-
are you doing now to help her? How is she,
So my experience with managing the condition, we did get into occupational therapy. Then we also did hydrotherapy, the heated pool. That is where we've spent many years, about 3 and 4. So even right now we are still at it. And we've recently introduced speech therapy last year. So one of the things that I noticed in terms of navigating the journey is that number one, the persons who are living with autism or those diagnosed with autism, they are very particular, orderly, systematic, predictable, ritualistic, you know. They like predictable environment. You have to create routines. They thrive only on routines. So my daughter, when she was born, her palate, that is now dietary preferences, is food, a meal. Right? Meaning to date, she's never taken 8 years later, 8 years and 4 months later, she's never taken tea and bread for breakfast. She eats a meal. And if you present anything other than a meal, she would rather stay hungry and starve. They are very rigid. They don't budge. You have to work with them. You have to create that environment and give them what they have accepted at that point. So her palate initially was very poor because she spent many years eating soft, mashed food. She could not even chew rice or chew a slice of bread. She couldn't eat dry food. She could not even drink from a cup. So there were some oral sensory challenges that we experienced, but still the diet still remained food. It's just that it was soft and watery. So as we did the occupational therapy, as he explained, which I understood that what play does outside of the fluid of the ear moving, your cerebral spinal system, like there you have your circulatory system for blood, that cerebral spinal fluid is circulating, so it encourages now communication and starting to meet the milestones, right? So right now she's able to eat anything, right? If she wants, it's on condition she wants it, because again they do what they want. What they do not want, even if you put a gun on their heads,
don't you
they
do
will
what you
not
want
do.
you.
But I have some flexibility.
I need to give you a snail and force you.
I have some flexibility. I am agile and accommodative.
Or else you will not see a type of food and feel like you want to die.
Right?
You're able to say, no, thank you, not mine.
So for her, I did not, because I knew that was her palate and my options were limited. A well-cooked meal, meaning even fruits, she didn't want. So therefore, it did not make sense now to withdraw items in the diet like wheat and carbohydrates and whatever, because that is what is keeping her going. So for me, I just gave a balanced meal, be it chapati, matoke, ugali, the mbogas. I just stuck to that to date. So over time, her palate has changed, and it's been very particular in terms of this year on her 8th birthday was the first time she ate her birthday cake herself. So all the other birthdays, we get a cake, we have the kids, they sing, but she will not eat it. She'll not even touch it. The cake is for all y'all, you know? But this year she actually ate her own cake, meaning now she was ready for the sugar and that kind of thing, which presents certain challenges because these kids at that age, they have to be school going. And one of the challenges I encountered when it came to diet, the school was like at break, as we give cocoa and guache, and sweet potatoes and mandazi on a certain day, and I was like, guys, it's not going to work for me because at this point mid-morning you already have their lunch ready. You need to present her with a meal, and it was a very long back and forth because she could not concentrate in class. She had a lot of meltdowns and all that, until one day I told them, guys, you need to listen to me. Present a meal, because when she's packed and she's full, you know, and not a full meal, just something to keep her going till lunchtime. And the day they did that, it was a change like black and white. Yeah, so diet has, it kind of infiltrated every part of our life, meaning her formative years up to 5-6 years, up to 2 years ago, everywhere I went, I had to carry her food. Even to visit my parents, I had to carry her own food. Because she also refused to eat what my mom cooked. She refused to eat what friends or relatives or in-laws would cook. Even when I would want to take the kids out to restaurant, like let's say Java or at cafe, I carry her food. And I talk to the manager and I say, I need you to warm this in your microwave. Right? You get. And luckily they would understand. But that area of her life of requiring that predictability and all that, it had to find its way to infiltrate. And luckily I did not find, except maybe from school at the start, I did not find so much resistance in terms of her being part of the environment.
And that's really good to hear. That's really good to hear.
And the funny thing is, the food has to come at a certain time. They are very particular like that.
Listen,
So when she wakes up in the morning, before she gets out of bed, you put the food on the table. Because the challenge of being with a non-verbal child, they'll not tell you they're hungry. And since now she's old enough and I've learned her system and I've learned her cues, there's no need to go back to the days of tantrums. So we go ahead of her. We make sure whatever she needs is available. And then it's for her to choose. Preferences outside of diet flow into, I don't know whether she'll talk about it, even clothing. She could only wear cotton in her formative years. She could not wear polyester or anything with the tags at the back. You have to cut off the tags. Anything that would irritate the skin, it had to be 100% cotton. And because they have this habit where the moment they are uncomfortable, they strip themselves naked. They undress. Even if you have visitors, they'll just undress and without shame. So for her to be able to engage with the world and even go to school and to stop those challenges of this lady, she might just decide to undress in the middle of the class. It took a lot of training, preparation, and doing the interventions early enough so that she's able to be within the environment, and still be herself, and still be comfortable, and to some level, the people around her will also have some level of comfort.
And understanding as well.
And understanding as well.
Okay, we have like one feedback and we have to... Our time is far much spent, but yes, let's see this one feedback and then we'll come and close. This one says, a huge thanks to the team for highlighting autism awareness today. I was meant to be with you all, but duty called elsewhere. Sending love to all the parents out there, and especially those like me, raising amazing warriors. Keep up the great work in educating the public. This is Dr. Isaiah Cheriot. Hashtag autism dad, hashtag autism awareness. Oh, thank you. And thank you so much, Dr. Isaiah, as well, for chiming in. So listen, hey, we have to end the show like now, before Philip kicks out. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to give each of you like, 30 seconds, around 15 seconds, to really talk about the theme. Like we said, this year is every life has value. So what exactly does that mean to you, and what do you want the audience to walk out of this conversation with as far as the theme, every life has a value? Dr. Beatrice, do you want to start?
Okay. I'm tempted to repeat those words, that every life has value. It's about accommodating everyone. It's about understanding that we are all built differently. It's about stopping the labeling and the stigma of saying this one is normal, this is not normal. It's about creating awareness and making safe spaces everywhere, in church, in school, so that people who are living with autism, people who are living with mental illness, people who are living with all the other conditions can be accommodated everywhere. So when we say that every life has value, it's about creating awareness. Also protecting people in their spaces. Everyone needs protection, even the parents of children who have autism. We have had those cases of what they go through. So what about also the people who are living with these people? So every life has value. The life of You see, the tables have turned. There's a time when she used to worry about her daughter. Now it is the daughter worrying about I'm okay.
Yeah.
Giving the mother assurance.
Yeah.
And I would say some of these things, that, like I said, that early intervention is key in every condition. Because even the people we are handling, like I told you, I run a mental health facility called Nobility House Treatment Center. Some of the people who find themselves in rehabilitation are cases that were ignored when they were young and an intervention was not made, and so they blew up into profound, you know. So every life has value. Let's create safe spaces. Let the homes be safe, the church, the schools, everywhere. Let us understand that people are different. And so when we see people who are behaving differently, we must understand now this is where they are coming from, and this is how I need to manage them so that people fit everywhere.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beatrice. Dr. Chengo, in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, so there is no life on earth that doesn't have a value in it.
Thank you.
And the value of a life for people in the spectrum is built on their strengths. And there is no a strength which will be realized without reasonable accommodations. If you open the door, you give an opportunity, and you provide all accommodations that are required, then there's no child or learner in class, in church, at home, who will never not thrive.
Oh, I like that. Thank you so much, Dr. Chengo.
Most welcome.
Mama Amani.
First of all, I want to appreciate, honestly, I can talk till the Kajiado Maasai cows come home on this topic because this is a lived experience. I want to appreciate all, you know, all the both doctors and many other doctors out here who look out for these innocent kids. You know, living is a human right. For these kids, at Dutai, I run a foundation. I think that's how I first met you. We always believed, I've been doing this for 2 decades. Little did I know that I would have a child with this autism, and our hashtag has always been leave no child behind. Before we go to the humans, because as adults can fight for ourselves. But leave no child behind. This is exactly what this World Autism Awareness Month is all about, because her life matters. What about those kids, like her daughter, who have no speech, honestly? And please allow me to encourage caregivers. I know she has, both of them have highlighted.
All right, in like
there is
1
hope.
second.
Guys, there is hope out here. There is help out here. Please, acceptance is hard. I mean, don't look at me and assume it's been a very easy road. But please reach out to a parent like reach out to even NTV. You'll get our contacts. Don't die alone. Acceptance can take 3 years, 4 years. We have dads, like her dad thinks Amani is not focusing, but you know, acceptance is hard, and we let him be.
Let's end it.
God bless.
Sorry for you, because I know you can in like 5 seconds, and then Dr. Chengo, someone asked for your contact as well, so probably you'll give before we end the show, but yes, in like 5 seconds if you can.
So my encouragement to the parents and the caregivers that this is a long journey. It's a journey of endurance. So my encouragement to you is to build an army, build a group of people, build your psychosocial support system, be deliberate about that, because the journey is like our famous Eliud Kipchoge, who when he starts a race, he knows that he's going to finish it at 42 kilometers. But imagine a race without a finishing line. That's the journey that as a parent I am on. There is no finishing line.
There's no finishing
so be
line,
encouraged and be strengthened.
Thank you so much, Angela. Your contact very quickly, like 2 seconds.
0726 27 2223.
0726
27 2223.
Okay. Amani, do you want to say goodbye to the people and tell them see you tomorrow? Come here. Come here to yes, and say you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes. Okay. So this is your camera, and tell them thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.
Yay! See you tomorrow on your Goodbye, and thank you for your feedback as well.